Well, welcome everybody to Water's Edge Church Online. My name is Matt Hoover, and I serve as one of the campus pastors right here at Water's Edge. And I want to welcome you to a special segment all about money. Now, before you turn off the video, we're calling this segment "Financial Fun" with Meredith Malpass. That's right. Meredith has been part of Water's Edge Church for over 13 years and is quite possibly the coolest, most creative, one of the most kind and thoughtful people I know. And I know a lot of people. And on top of that, Meredith also has a master's in accounting and has served in a number of different positions and capacities within the financial industry. And we have her with us today. Oh my goodness. And she's going to help us all as we make our financial plans for 2021. So again, can y'all welcome Miss Meredith Malpass to the segment here today? Leave some clappy hands right there in the chat or some blue heart emojis right there in the chat. Meredith, thank you so very much for being a part of this special segment.
Thanks for the warm welcome, Matt. I mean, seriously, I need to carry you around as my hype man. If you could pump me up like that before every meeting, yes. I'm so excited to be here today to share a couple of tips and tricks I have picked up along the way about financial fun and fitness.
Right on. Well, hey, let's dive right into it. Okay, Meredith, everyone says we should have financial plans and goals, right? And many times around the first of the year, we kind of start thinking about goals for the year. And many times a lot of our goals are around money, okay? Say I wanted to attempt to put together a financial plan for 2021. Where would I start?
You know, Matt, a lot of people think that financial planning is only for the wealthy and Scrooge McDuck. But I'm here to tell you financial planning is for everybody. Yeah. It provides you with a roadmap for your financial future. So when putting together a financial plan for yourself, you're going to look at your financial goals. Yeah. It's a good idea to have a reason. Why are you saving? Why are you spending? Why are you planning? Take a look ahead as well. Where do you see yourself in 6 months, 5 years, 10 years down the road? And then you create a budget, one that encompasses spending, saving, and importantly, giving. And as you compare your goals against your budgets, you can look for opportunities to begin to build an emergency fund, pay down your debt, and even plan for retirement. So most important of all, you got to write it down.
Oh, it's so good.
There are a ton of great apps and worksheets that are absolutely free and available to you online.
Right on. So Meredith, so if I was looking to put together a plan for myself, I first have to kind of answer some of those basic questions, right? Like, where do I see myself in 6 months? Where do I see myself in a year? And kind of start to imagine what those goals would look like and just write it down. That's kind of the most critical piece, is just get it written down so you can see it every single day. All right, you talked a little bit about a budget, right? And for some people, that's like a bad word. Like, they don't want to hear budget. They don't want to live with a budget. Can you maybe give those who are watching maybe some tips and tricks on how to put together a budget and maybe even how to make that process fun?
Oh, absolutely, Matt. Okay, so first, I always recommend establish a baseline for yourself. Okay. Just take a look at last month's spending, pull up your financial statements, look at your checkbook, see where the money came in, and see where the money went out. Do you have a tendency to treat yourself and find the bank account running dry each month? Or do you find that you're already maybe fairly disciplined when it comes to your money? I mean, knowing yourself and your weaknesses, that's what helps you stay on track. So when it's time to make an action plan, you got to make sure, again, it includes spending, saving, and giving.
I love that.
Identify those. Yes. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just remember being young married couple, and we lived near a Rite Aid, right? And I remember someone challenged us to look at our last month's spending. I had spent like a third of our budget or a third of our income at Rite Aid. Oh my goodness, I was out of control at Rite Aid. So looking back at your previous month is so helpful to notice some of the trends that you have in your life as it comes to spending money and what you're doing with your money. Yeah, it's a great point. Okay, Meredith, let's talk real quick about saving. Okay, most people believe part of wise financial planning is planning to save. Do you have any advice for those who may be looking to save money this year?
Absolutely. And look, saving is one of the most important parts of achieving your financial goals. And if the sweatshirt does not convince you, then perhaps Luke 14:28 will, because that says, "For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost,
Hmm.
whether he has enough to complete it?" So
Yeah.
your first step to saving smart, emergency fund, just $1,000. You may
Yeah.
not have a ton of extra cash when you're first starting out with your budget, but having a proper emergency fund sets you up to achieve those financial goals down the line, because when something happens, you've got the extra cash there to work it out. So over time, you can work towards a more robust savings account.
Yeah.
That's when you can start saving for vacations and even planning for retirement.
I love that. I love that. Well, hey, Meredith, let's just say some of our viewers are kind of living on a really thin budget. And maybe right now they're saying, I don't have any extra money to put into savings. What are some creative ways that people can, I guess, find money, or what are some creative ways to make sure that you're including saving in your financial picture?
That's a great question. And there are so many different ways. I mean, you can start a side hustle. That works for some folks. You
Yeah,
can just take a look at your discretionary spending. What are you spending your money on? Maybe
great.
cut down the bills. I've even seen folks save tons of money by simply downgrading their car. When you cut that car payment down to nothing,
Mm.
that's where suddenly there's hundreds of extra each month. And right there puts you on a track.
I love that. Those are great, very practical ways to help find some extra money out there that might be right under your nose already. Okay, Meredith, we're going to talk about a big one, right? We're going to talk about debt. I think everybody's financial goals at the beginning of a new year, I'm going to get out of debt. Debt is something we hear about all the time. Do you have any tips on how people can start the process of getting out of debt?
Matt, you're right. Debt is a tough one to talk about. And look, there are a few different methods. What works for one person when getting out of debt may not work for the other. So I'll
Yeah.
tell you about a few of them. There's the snowball debt method. Now, this one's pretty popular. That's where you line up your debts from smallest to largest. Just don't even think about the interest rates. You start paying minimums on the largest ones and you pay off the smallest one. Then, when that smallest one is done, you roll that payment into the next one, so on and so forth. So that
Mm,
works for a lot of people. But for others, simply being frugal
mm,
and living wisely
yeah.
is enough to dedicate more of their budget to their debts.
Mm.
So, in my opinion, you also need to cut up those cards and ignore the 0% down commercials, because I tell you what, Matt, Toyota-san is not worth it.
Way to call out Toyota on our financial segment. That's great. So the snowball effect, or just looking at your discretionary spending again, or looking at some of your regular budget, say, man, where can we just make some cuts to help us get out of the debt situation that we're in? I love that. I know it's painful. It's not ever easy. Okay. And I know many people who go down the road of trying to do really good with their finances, they end up tripping up and messing up and maybe getting off track. What would you say to those who have maybe messed up on their financial plan, or they've gotten off track? I mean, what would you say to somebody who finds himself in this place?
Well, first, you want to know the real secret to mastering your budget? It's tweaking it over and over and over again. And to some people, that's failure.
Mm,
Don't give up on your first budget attempts, because figure out what went wrong and
yeah.
then try again. I mean, I also look to the word for encouragement, because even though I've been doing this for a while and it's kind of my profession, I trip up too. Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I
Yeah.
am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you.
Yeah.
I will help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand.
Wow.
And you know what, Matt, that applies even when you're budgeting. You know what?
What's
No,
that?
scratch that. That applies especially when you're budgeting.
Yes. Yes. You're exactly right, Meredith. We're all going to trip and fall and stumble and get off track. And remembering that we can just pick right back up where we left off, or we can get back to it at any point in time, and that we can lean into God's word and we can lean into God's strength, and he can help cultivate some of that discipline in us to stick with it even when it is tough. What a great, 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 great message. Well, Meredith, thank you so very much for just sharing some of your time with us here today. And I want to thank everybody who's choosing to view this content. Thank you so very much. And if any of this was helpful to you, right, or you think it could be helpful to somebody else, why don't you just go ahead and hit that share button. Let some people know about this content. Again, thank you all so very much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you at one of our physical campuses or online this coming weekend. Take care, guys, and happy financial planning in 2021.